In lesson 3.2, the target states, I can multiply positive and negative decimals. It's really about just being able to multiply decimals, but in this lesson they're going to multiply both positives and negatives. When you're multiplying decimals, you multiply like you would normally. If I were going to multiply 6 times 0.1, I would write 0.1 times 6, and I'm multiplying. I don't line up the decimal points. There's the decimal in 6 is here, 6.0, but like with adding and subtracting decimals, I don't line them up. I just put them in, I just stack them on top of each other like you wouldn't when you're multiplying two numbers normally. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 0 is 0. And there is one decimal place to count over one decimal place involved in this multiplication. So I put the decimal one place in. So the answer is 0.6. An easier way to think about this is to just multiply the numbers, like take the decimals out. 6 times 0.1 is 6 times 1, which is 6. There's one decimal place in the numbers that are being multiplied, so I'm going to move the decimal in one place to give me 0.6. Let's try that with the next number. I'm going to multiply 1.25 times 23. If I just multiply 125 times 23, so take out the decimals, multiply, 3 times 5 is 15, carry the 1, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7, 3 times 1 is 3. I'm moving over a place, so I'm going to add a placeholder 0. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So as I would normally multiply, I would add 5 plus 0 is 5, 7 plus 0 is 7, 3 plus 5 is 8. Well, 1.25 times 23 is not 875, but there are 2 places total in the numbers being multiplied. So I'm going to move the decimal in once, twice. So it's 8.75. Let's take a look at 2 more examples. If I were multiplying 2 numbers and they each have a decimal, 1.2 times 1.6. 1.2 has one decimal place, and 1.6 has one decimal place. That's a total of 2 places. So when I'm done multiplying 12 times 16, I'm going to move the decimal in 2 places from the right. 6 times 2 is 12, carry the 1. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Put a 0 in place, hold the place. 1 times 2 is 2. And 1 times 1 is 1. When I add, I get 192. Well, 1.2 times 1.6 is not 192, so I need to remember my 2 places. I'm going to bring my decimal in 2 places. So my answer is 1.92. So a good strategy to think about multiplying decimals is take the decimals away, do your multiplying, and then add them back in at the end. We'll try one with negatives. I'm multiplying a negative number times a positive number, so I know my answer is going to be negative. So I'm just going to take the negative out when I do my multiplying, and I'm going to take out my decimals and just multiply 278 times 8. I'm going to put the decimals back in. So this has 1 place value to account for, and this has 2 place values to account for, 2 decimal places to account for. So in the end, I'm going to move the decimal in a total of 3 places. So 8 times 8 is 64. Carry the 6. 8 times 7 is 56. Plus 6 is 62. Carry the 6. 8 times 2 is 16. Plus 6 is 22. 2.78 times 0.8 is not 2,224. But if I remember having to move my decimal back in 3 places, this makes more sense. My answer is 2.224. And since I was multiplying a negative times a positive, this answer is negative. So my final answer is negative 2.224. So now, you give it a try. Click pause, copy these two problems in your notebook and solve them. And when you're ready to check your answer, click play and I'll review them for you. So let's see how you did. 1.7 times 1.2. There's one place here and one place here. So I'm going to do a count in the end for 2 places. Move my decimal to the left 2 places. So 17 times 12. 2 times 7 is 14. Carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3. Add a 0 to move over a place. 1 times 7 is 7. And 1 times 1 is 1. I'm going to add from right to left. 4 plus 0 is 4. 7 plus 3 is 10. Carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So 1.7 times 1.2 is not 204. I have to remember my 2 places to move the decimal over, or add the decimal 2 places in. My answer is 2.04. The next problem is a negative times a positive. So my answer is going to be negative. I'm going to add that back in later. And I have 2 places to account for. So in the end, I'm going to move the decimal over 2 places. So it's 16 times 2. 2 times 16 is 32. Well, the answer is not 32. Because 0.2 times 1.6 would not equal 32. So I have my 2 places to account for, so if I move the decimal in 2 places, it's 0.32. That makes more sense, and it's negative. So for the second problem, my answer was negative 0.32.